Resolutors, you can meet me back in the resolution room.
I need to get, I do, that's it, we do need to get Fiona's. She'll have one for every side. I don't know, I'll ask Cynthia. If you don't mind, use one. No. I got it. And
Like, how used can they be? Yeah, how used can they be?
I probably have 40 pairs inside. Those are so cute. I'll, she has one little, pair.
No, they didn't finish. They're not as,
Stay strong. Look at this, Sydney. Did you send crayons and a science kit for these kids for Christmas? Yeah. Yeah? She said, yes. Forgot to tell you.
Self-delivered, whether it's going to what accessibility. That's really a no for us.
And if you read on the receipt, it says it's a gift receipt.
Okay. Are we ready to start? Yes, we are ready to start. Yeah, because. All right, everybody. We want to go ahead and get started. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and finish this section, but after this, when we finish this section, it was suggested that when we get into a new section, that we read through it and just automatically go into caucus so you can discuss it and have a few minutes to talk about. I heard somebody say, oh, Head Start.
So my suggestion was actually that if we come into a new section, which none of us have seen for at least a couple of months, that we do that we actually open it up to a couple of questions at the outset, and then go into caucus, and then vote on consensus, so that we have a little bit of setting the table on it, so that we all know what each. So one of the things about the way that today is for us is that nobody ever talks to us, and we never know what the issues are. So because. So this could just be that, so we're constantly having caucuses where we have no idea what the problem is. So we don't know, so we can't talk about it with our team before we go into caucus, because it's a caucus, so you see what I mean? So I would like to have the issues raised a little bit, at least for a couple of minutes, before we go into caucus.
Okay, so just to make sure that we're in agreement and that I'm understanding what you're requesting, when we get to the next, another section that you all haven't read or seen in a while, that I will read it, ask if there are any questions, allow the questions to be addressed, and then go into caucus? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, or initial concerns, just to raise those initial concerns, and then we go into like a 2 or 3 minute caucus, and then we start the consensus voting.
Okay, all right. All right, do we need to go get consensus on that? Okay, well, let's just make sure that we're all on the same page. So team leads, will you let me, okay, there we go. Family, homes, licensing, everybody? Okay, parents, centers, Head Start, ECAP. All right, just want to make sure we're all in this together. All right, so let's go ahead and move forward. Before we went to lunch, we were on 3, what is now 3, I believe? Okay. So let's go ahead and, do you want me to reread it? Should I reread it? We good? Okay, so let me go and reread it. Number 3, early learning program space must be located, A, on a site free from environmental hazards, B, in an area where non-emergency services and utilities can serve the early learning program space, and C, in an area served by emergency fire, medical, and police during the hours the early learning provider provides care to children with, this one has no weight. I'm going to go, since we read it earlier, I'm going to go ahead and see if we can get consensus on number 3. Okay, oh, licensing.
Licensing would like to see a weight on A, because we do believe there can be times when an environmental hazard may either develop, or it may be that nobody knew about it and now it's been found after licensing. The others we're fine with there being no weight, but we would like a weight of 6 so that we can focus on the safety plan if this ever came up.
Okay. On A. Family homes?
We would like to see the comments that are after the NA weight.
The comment is recommended weight NA unless DL can think of a time this would apply after licensing.
So, am I to understand correctly that this is after someone's licensed? Their initial license, or?
I think that I think the NA was put in thinking that you wouldn't get a license if those things were not in place. However, what we are saying is that A could come up after you have an initial or a full license, and so we need to be able to address it if it ever came up after the fact.
Do you have any examples? Has this happened?
Underground storage tanks have become an issue. And sometimes we don't even know what the issues may be until somebody discovers it. So, I mean, we're absolutely, contaminated underground water. We're really just seeing this as it could become an issue. We don't expect it to very often. And in terms of being, you won't get a license if you're on a hazardous site to begin with. But it's to be able to address it if it did happen later.
Okay. Any further questions? Centers?
Could we add like documented environmental hazards or something? I mean, like, how are you going to, what would those be? If you're licensed and then something happens, I think that everyone would want some clarity on like what things would make you, like, could it be like documented or founded hazards or something like that?
We wouldn't be citing it unless it was shown to be.
So like what if a
And-
major freeway went in just like immediately adjacent that feels very hazardous? Do you see, I mean, this is popping up. I'm not saying that's a great example.
Oh, there was a,
So, for example, we have a child care that was in a building that had previously been a dry cleaner. Fine, except that during a study that Department of Ecology was doing, they found that the underground water was contaminated and it was seeping into the child care. And so they had to address that by having some filters installed, and so something like that can
Yeah.
happen from a previous business.
So
So
is-
it's just you'd never know when it will show up.
Okay, Head Start, ECAP first, and then Family Homes.
So I see this issue, but I guess our concern, the pre-licensing is taken care of. I think that there is a danger here of a licensor then also giving you the 6 if you. I guess that's a pre-license thing, right? So you would never get. So okay, I'm fine with that.
Okay, Family Home, and then Centers, please.
Again, I would like more clarification on if the site is found to have an after initial license contamination of some kind, would the weight of 6 be if it wasn't addressed, or would the weight of 6 be because it just now happened and you're just now finding out?
that could happen either way. It would depend on the situation, and that would be an implementation thing.
So
Fa-
number
Centers.
4 is other identified toxins or hazards, F. 4F. So and it's weighted in 8. So can we leave all of this unweighted and just take care of it in this next section?
Well, except that that's talking about exposure to, and this is talking about location.
Centers, do you have another question?
We just think that, the location wouldn't be hazardous unless there was exposure.
Do you need a few minutes for a sidebar? Yes, you do? Okay. Is that a yes? 2 minutes for sidebar? Okay. Okay, let's take 2 minutes. Let's take 2 minutes for a sidebar.
Yeah, can we join because we never get picked.
Do you need an additional time? 2 more minutes.
You don't want to be invited again. We don't need to be invited.
Okay, are we ready? Licensing.
Okay, 3A needs to be on a site free from known environmental hazards.
From known environmental hazards, okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get consensus on 3. 3A, because we added a weight there, and we added some wording. Consensus? Okay. Family homes, 3 5s and a 4. Licensing, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. Centers, all 5s. Okay, so now let's go ahead and get consensus on the whole, all of number 3 as a whole with the new wording. Family homes, 3 5s and a 4. Licensing, all 5s. ECAP, all 5s. I'm doing all of 3 because okay? Is that clear? Okay. Centers, all 5s, and parents, all 5s. Okay. I'm sorry. Excuse me? All right, if I miss it, please let me know so I can get the count right. Thank you. All right, so what do we have again? Parents, please? Okay, 5 5s and 1 4. Is that correct? Thank you. All right. Let's go to number 4. Okay, so we're at number 4 now. An early learning provider must prevent child exposure to the following within and around the licensed premises. A, lead-based paint. B, plumbing and fixtures containing lead or lead solders. C, asbestos. D, arsenic, lead or copper in the soil or drinking water. E, toxic mold. F, other identified toxins or hazards with a weight of 8. Centers?
Consensus thing where, could we add known with this too? Because again, if we don't know we have asbestos, I mean, if we're, like right now, if you're supposed to test your water, you have to test your water. So you're doing all those things, but you can't prevent exposure unless you know about it, really. But like, I don't regularly do toxic mold testing in my center.
Okay. All right. So let's get consensus on that change wording. Number 4, family homes, 4 5s and 1 4. Licensing, all 5s. Parents, 5 5s and 1 4. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. Centers, all 5s. Oh, yes. Oh, no. One more time. I say 1 4 and 1 2 3 4 5 6 and 5 5s. Okay. Okay. Now let's go ahead and finish up with that one. Get a total vote. Not vote. Let's see if we can get total consensus on 4 with all the current wording as it is. And the weight of 8. Yeah, what I just did was a language change, and now we're looking at consensus for the whole number 4. Okay? All righty. Saved by the music. All right. Family homes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 5. I mean, 4 5s and a 4. I feel like I'm yelling. Am I yelling? I'm loud. Okay, I'm sorry. Licensing, all 5s. Parents. I'll come back to parents. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. Centers. 5 5s and a 4. Is that right? Yep. And parents? All 5s. Thank you. All right, let's do, trying to lower my voice some here. Let's do the new number 5. An early learning provider must place address numbers on the outside of the house or building containing the early learning program space, and the numbers must be legible and plainly visible from the street or road serving the premises, and that has a weight of 5. Are we voting, or do you have a question? I start ECAT. Okay, no.
Well,
Did you have a question? A Head Start, a statement?
well, I don't know that there's a way for us to solve this problem for us. Maybe that the early learning provider building must be easily identifiable or have an address number, because I think if you drive around and look at all of your elementary schools in town, none of them have a building number. So we would either ask for a variance or some sort of language tweaking around this one.
It's a fire code requirement that buildings have, businesses and schools and everything. I think if you look carefully, you'll find the numbers somewhere.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, Lori, what did you say?
I could add I can add a comment that you may need a variance, Katie.
Yes, please do. And I mean, so I think a lot of times they might have the address on the sign or something like that, but I mean, one of our folks actually drove around to all of her programs, and none of their elementary schools had the number visible on the outside of the building, so.
Okay, Family Homes.
Mine's just a clarifying question. Building containing the early learning program space, does that mean a sign that says your family home childcare, or is it just pertaining to your address? Okay, yeah, I know that. They came to see me. I now have it very visible. Okay, that's just my own question.
Okay. Okay. Let's go ahead and measure consensus for number 5 with the weight of 5. Are you ready?
We'll just give it.
Family Homes, all 5s. Licensing, all 5s. Parents, 5 5s and 1 4. Head Start ECAP. Looks like I see 4 4s and 2 5s. Is that right? 3. Oh, hold on a second. Let me try this again. I see a 3, and I see 2 3s, 3 3s. Okay. Head Start ECAP has 3 3s, 2 4s, and centers have. I'm sorry, my glasses are like, I need to have my all 3s. All right, did I get everybody? So centers has all 3s, and Head Start ECAP has 3s. You want to start with your concerns?
So we've already stated them.
Okay. Centers?
Ours are the same as ECAP.
Okay. So concerns have been noted. And we will move on. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
And just that the fire marshal would likely already be regulating this if it's a fire code.
Centers, but they wouldn't be for family homes. They don't go into the family homes. Well, I mean, not on a, the state fire marshal doesn't have to go into a family home, so.
So just so the centers know, I'm going to look a little bit more into this language because this is very clearly talking about house numbers for a residential address. And I liked the suggestion about making something readily identifiable or, you know, if you have a billboard or sign out front. So if Tina and Lori can put a note in there to remind me in a couple days when I get back to it, that I think that was a good suggestion. And so we might, even if you vote on it now, I'll revisit it and try and get some more accurate language for you.
Okay. So now we're on to the new number 6. Oh, wait. Give Lori a chance to finish her notes. A licensed applicant planning to open an early learning program in the designated Tacoma Smelter Plume counties of King, Pierce, and Thurston must contact the State Department of Ecology, DOE, and complete and sign an access agreement with DOE to evaluate the applicant's property for possible arsenic and lead soil contamination. And this has no weight. Centers?
Just have a quick question. So this is pertaining only to new sites. So existing sites that would be in this area. Okay, so I've already done everything, so there would be no, okay.
Okay, let's measure consensus. Family homes, 3 5s and 1 4. Licensing, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. Centers, all 5s. All righty. Thank you. We are done with this one.
All right, so we're going to continue down program admin. So if you're confused on where we're going to continue down program admin until the TA group comes back. So that means we are in 0415, zoning codes and ordinances. So this one was subgroup negotiated. You'll also see that this language has a box around it, which means that Dell Technical Writers did some work on it as well. And Lori and I were just conferring. We believe this one, because it's on zoning codes, was something that probably Tyler and the architect worked with together after the subgroup met. All right, so number 1. The department adopts and incorporates the Washington State Building Code, Chapter 1927 RCW, as now and hereafter amended. Prior to licensing, early program space must comply with the Washington State Building Code or local building code as currently enacted. For facility modifications that require a permit, refer to WAC 0402, weight of NA. Number 2, an early learning provider shall comply with the state building code in effect at the time of licensure. A violation shall not be assessed until confirmed by a local building code official, a weight of 7. Number 3, prior to licensing, an applicant must contact state, city, and local agencies that may regulate the early learning program. An early learning provider must obtain regulations and comply with direction given by such agencies. These agencies may include, but are not limited to, Labor and Industries, the State Fire Marshal, a local health jurisdiction, or DOH. And that's a weight of NA. So if we scroll down, the last one then is 5, which is now 4. Prior to licensing, a center early learning applicant must A, have a certificate of occupancy issued by the local building, planning, or zoning department, or a local equivalent if locality does not have the certificate of occupancy. And B, be inspected and approved by the state fire marshal, weight of NA. Okay, so we'll open it up for any questions or concerns first. Okay, seeing none, we'll move into 1 minute team caucus. So you can take a chance to review. Okay, so we'll come back together now and start with number 1. I'll measure consensus on number 1, a weight of NA. All right, family, home, all 5s and 1-4. Licensing, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Head Start, ECAP, all 5s. Centers, yes, just 1. Centers are all 5s. All right. So now we'll move on to number 2. Centers, which one do you, just so we have heads up? Do you have a concern? Right now. Okay, go ahead. Can you go ahead and state your concern on number 2 before I measure consensus?
Noting that because we spoke about in WAC 0402, that this a weight here for violating this is basically a double weight because we're already notifying and complying with anything for remodeling.
So you just want to note here, you don't want to change the weight.
We think the weight
You want
should
to
be
change-
removed because the weight is already elsewhere.
I just wanted to
in
make sure
0402.
I'm clarifying what you're saying. So you want to move it from a weight of 7 to a weight of NA. License. Yep. Looks like licensing, you have a comment back?
This is not necessarily because somebody's decided to make a change. It may be that something just kind of deteriorated or fell apart and they're no longer compliant. So it isn't necessarily, I mean, the other one is about if you're going to modify, if you're going to change, then you got to do all of this. This one would be if it's just flat out not meeting that code anymore and they put in there that the violation has to be assessed. It's not, this isn't willy-nilly by the licensor to just say, you don't meet it anymore.
Do you guys need a team caucus? Okay, let's put a 2-minute team caucus on the clock. All right, before we hear from centers, Lori has a suggestion for a technical change.
A sidebar with the Dell technical writing team to make sure what their intent was. And their intent when writing this was to have compliance at the time of licensing and continue compliance while the program was in operation. So I'm inserting a suggested change here for you guys to discuss.
So an early learning provider shall comply with, can you move that? Should comply with and remain in compliance with the state building code in effect at the time of licensure. Violation shall not be assessed until confirmed by local building code official. Centers.
So one thing that we noticed is that because we have overlap between not just 0402, but we also have overlap with 0165, which is talking about safety of your environment, and it covers a ton of things that are basically structural and building and equipment. We're wondering whether this really, our interpretation was that this was talking about at the time of licensure, and then the other is talking about keeping up your premises. Only the weight.
Only the weight is what you have an issue with. So you still want it NA. Okay. We'll hear from Family Homes.
We concur with the weight of NA on this because actually licensing does not have jurisdiction when it comes to the building code. So if we are in violation of the building code, if an inspector comes out and they decide that we are not within building code, they will assess a fine on us. They will give us a fix-it plan or whatever that is. And so that is out of, I understand that licensing can bring a concern, you know, to the attention of the provider, but then, you know, the plan would be that then they need to have the local code people come out. But this should be a weight of NA, because if there's any local code violation, that's the building code people that are responsible for that and will be fined.
So why don't we measure consensus on just the language with this new and remaining in compliance first, just to confirm that we are on the same page here. So I'm going to measure consensus on just the language as is on the screen. Just measuring consensus on the language as it is on the screen. You cannot do it separately. Okay. So centers are saying they can't do it separately because the weight and the language are tied together. So if it stays at a 7, they wouldn't want this language to look as it is. Okay, I'm gonna, looks like licensing is getting a sidebar from Dell Technical, so we'll go ahead and just call it a sidebar for 2 minutes.
Yeah, come on over. Yeah, come on over. We really, really like the guys. I would like to maybe sort of cupcake them in the
Centers, are you amenable to a sidebar with family childcare? All right.
Yes, the language and the weight. You can't
It's hard to separate them because if you change the language, the weight could change. Yeah, I think so too. It's big. I want to make sure I know which winding we're doing. Winding. We were having wine. Well, I don't even put it all here. Maybe. I'm here so
Okay, so Dell typewriters added some language. Tyler, do you want to explain what just happened?
Sure. All right, so essentially what we're doing here is we're mimicking language that's already in
I don't think that's on.
RCW, which I'm loud anyway. So we're mimicking language in RCW, and to make it less confusing, it's easier simply to point to the code that we cannot change. Since it's a pretty quick section, short section, it might make more sense just to point to it here and say that you're required as a licensed entity to keep your building and structural environment updated and maintained pursuant to this standard that's written into state law. Of course, if you can go read that now or take my word for it and read it later.
Okay, we'll go licensing and then family home providers.
And licensing would be willing to lower this weight to a 6 with that language?
Okay, so we'll hear
Oh,
from-
in order to work like with a safety plan, I mean, our thinking is that when these situations do occur, which is not often, we need to be able to do a safety plan or work with them around something.
We're going to go to family home next and then centers.
Okay, we have a couple of issues. One, many of our homes are built almost 100 years ago or more. And so I am not familiar with that RCW, but with the building codes that I'm familiar with, I do not have to update my home unless I am remodeling that requires a permit. The other issue I have is who decides that I am in compliance with that RCW? I mean, does licensing bring that to someone's attention? Does, I mean, how is that assessed that I am complying with that?
So we'll have licensing answer that question, then move to centers. That's okay?
Licensing would assume that you were compliant with that RCW unless there were some circumstance that happened or some environmental issue or something that we suddenly saw, something that changed in your environment that caused us a concern. And this RCW is real clear on when we can take action and when we need to go to the health department. So ultimately, I mean, not the health department, the planning department. Ultimately, if we had that kind of concern, we would be wanting the planning department to be there.
And in the RCW I reference here, it talks specifically about Dell being required to work with the city or county enforcement official that would be responsible for these updates.
So that's actually A right here, 1A.
Oh, what's up? Perfect.
And Centers, did you still have a question?
We're just trying to understand the types of things that you have seen that would fall into these categories, because 0165 covers things like decks and stairways and so many of the things that could potentially be what you're talking about with sevens.
Well, the what we run into could be varied all over the place, but Yvonne was just giving us a prime example of a home that had the bathtub that was getting ready to fall through the ceiling. So, I mean, roof damage, that's, you know, there just are a variety of things that could happen and do happen.
Okay. So I'm going to just see, let's get a pulse of the room. Let's try to measure consensus on 2 with the language and weight as is. Language and a weight of 6. So licensing are all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. Family home, 5s and 3 4s. Centers, you ready?
You could just do 3s.
3s all around, okay.
Simplicity. Just the concern of having it weighted potentially in 2 places. Thanks.
Okay, so thank you, Lori, for capturing that concern. So then we'll move to number 3. Okay, so we'll measure consensus on number 3 at a weight of NA. Family home, we have 5s and 1 4. Licensing, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. Centers, all 5s. All right, we'll move down. This 5 is the new 4. Weight of NA. So I'll measure consensus on number 4 at a weight of NA. Licensing, all 5s. Family child care, all 5s. Parents are all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. What? You're changing your numbers? Okay. Head Start ECAP are all 5s, and Centers, all 5s. All right. Nice job. We'll move into 0420 then.
Okay, let me see if I'm. Well, all right, 0420. Oh. All right, number 1, an early learning provider must prohibit the use of tobacco, cannabis, and vapor products pursuant to RCW 70.160. Smoking is prohibited, A, in any indoor or outdoor licensed space, B, within 25 feet of an entrance, exit, window, or ventilation intake of the early learning program and in view of children, C, in motor vehicles used to transport children during business hours, D, while the provider is off-site but responsible for supervising children, such as during field trips, and E, in family home early learning programs, smoking is prohibited during operating hours. This has a weight of 8. Number 2, an early learning provider must A, keep and store tobacco or vapor products, cigarettes or cigars in containers holding cigarettes or cigars, cigarette or cigar butts or ashes inaccessible to children. B, not allow anyone on the premises, including all staff, volunteers, and when applicable, household members to consume or be under the influence of alcoholic beverages, cannabis, illegal drugs, or misused prescription drugs while children are in care. C, cannabis and associated paraphernalia out of the licensed child care space. And D, keep and store alcohol, including open and closed containers, inaccessible to children. And this has a weight of 8. Any concerns? You need a caucus? Okay, we'll move to a one. Why don't we do this? Before we have a caucus, please state your concerns so that way if there's something others have to think about.
There's just a few elements that are out of our control as programs. So the 25 feet, people being in the area, so that being an 8 that's out of our control. So anyway, and then number 2 also being an 8, because as much as we maybe don't want to think about this, if you have a staff member that comes to work intoxicated, you would ask them to leave as soon as you knew about it. But again, you're at a level 8, and that's putting your license in jeopardy for actions that are not because of anything you did. So it's the weight around these.
Okay.
And so we just need to look at the language on what our part in this could be to make sure that it doesn't happen, but it's the 8 that is the problem on both.
Okay. And family homes?
We have the same issue with the 25 feet because, a home to the sidewalk could possibly not be 25 feet, and we can't control the public. And then the issue that we have also is that we can't control what the parents do when they're dropping off their children, and they're pulling in our driveway and they have a cigarette. God forbid, they're smoking with their kids in their car or something. Like, we don't have control of that. And the weight of an 8 is something that when it's out of our control, how do you regulate that? I mean, I would certainly tell the parent they're not allowed to smoke on my property, but because I'm not okay with it regardless, but I can't make someone do something.
Okay. All right. And
allow.
We're not done. We're not done.
Oh, okay.
We're not done.
Okay.
Family home, are we just doing 1 or are we doing 1 and 2? Just 1?
All of them.
All of what you
yes.
just read.
Yes.
Okay. So the thing about cigar butts, and then again, it's that if a parent puts a cigarette out on the sidewalk in front of my house, I can't leave my premises to go and clean the sidewalk. And the other thing is like consuming alcohol or cigarettes. What if you have, like on my property, I have 2 outbuildings and they're more than 25 feet away from the children. They're out of sight of the children, but you're saying on the premises. Why couldn't, my son-in-law go in my barn and work on my car and smoke a cigarette? That's not acceptable. There was something else about empty alcoholic beverages. If you have a bottle of beer that you're spouse consumed the night before and it's in your recyclable bin and there might be a drop of alcohol in there. It's like there are a lot of issues with these, so go for it.
Okay, and parents, and then Head Start.
So I guess my concern would be if there would be a way that Dale could rewrite C in number 1. I understand, like, it's very important not to have the kids in the car, you know, while you're smoking or whatever. But for me, my daughter is so sensitive with her asthma, like even to go into the car that maybe you smoked in 4 hours prior to transporting, that would be a trigger for her. Is there some way that you could write that in there for those kids that are very sensitive to those smells?
Licensing, you want to address that?
Actually, I want to address a couple of things.
Okay.
First of all, the 25 feet is state law. It's not, again, Dell making up this, and Tyler's looking that one up. So, okay, that's where that came from. We are, the way we view these is we are talking about on your premises and with your staff, or in the family home situation, the household members. I think that the situation that was given about, you know, an outbuilding more than 25 feet away, out of sight of children, it's not licensed space. But it's on my premises. But it's not licensed space. And so, again, you would not be having a problem unless he was standing outside that outbuilding where children could see him. I mean, I think that we can always look at, I mean, I can tell you horror stories from the other side, and there's always the potential, it doesn't matter how well we write them, but I think we have to look at what really are we intending here, and we are intending that on the premises, these things not be allowed, and in a family home, they not be allowed during childcare hours, because we're not trying to regulate that home after, when they're no longer doing business.
Okay. So Head Start.
So, well, first I want to applaud whoever it was at DEL who put the marijuana section under number 420, because that's that's some like genius bureaucratic trolling right there. We're actually fully supportive of this 25 feet and all of that, but I do think that, I mean, the issue here is about how licensors interpret that, and the fact that programs are not in control of that within 25 feet of their door, and it's an 8. It's a shut down your business one. So I think that is the biggest concern here. I'm sitting here reading the public spaces law here. It's perfectly in alignment with this, but it's a shut down your business section here. So we would be comfortable with a lower weight on this. The other thing is that I'm with the parents, and we talked about this on our team in one of the previous meetings about the danger of second and third hand smoke. And I think that maybe what happened was that we could not regulate people's personal cars during their off hours, and that is why that isn't in there, because I think we had previously proposed that it be motor vehicles that carry children cannot be but I think that maybe we got blocked on that because of other legal reasons. So I just wanted to bring that up.
So why don't we take 2, let's say like 3. This is the, you have one, okay, there's a couple, okay, so then let me cover all the concerns, okay? Parents had one, and then family homes and centers, I didn't forget about you. Okay. So let's start with parents, family homes, and centers.
I was just wondering if this is one of those cases where the provider can create a policy that parents have to sign that says that they'll honor these things, and if that would cover it in this section. For the things that are out of their control, at least. Well,
it's the public.
Yes, it's the public. But if you have a policy that people aren't supposed to smoke on your property, you can go out there and say, we have a policy that we don't allow smoking. But it was just a suggestion to see if there was an opportunity for compromise somewhere to try to bridge that. But
Okay,
just a suggestion.
let's do this then. Let's go ahead and have a 3-minute sidebar conversation.
Okay.
Okay, 3-minute
Suggested
sidebars.
language.
All right, then I'm trying to get this moving so you all can talk. But go ahead and share your concern, and then Centers, and you want to let you have yours as well.
Okay, Judy, we're talking about it needs to remain premises, but the problem is that during daycare hours, I'm open 24/6. That's a problem, because my husband, who is working on his car out in the garage, is on my premises, but he's nowhere in the daycare area, licensed area whatsoever. But he can certainly drink a beer and smoke a cigarette out there if he wants. He's nowhere near anything. He doesn't do anything with the daycare, but it's on my premises. So that I would have a problem with that.
And Centers?
So the suggestion is, must prohibit is where it is an issue with the weight of the 8. The suggestion is takes steps to prohibit, must take steps to prohibit would be suggested language. An example of this is we're fairly close to a bus station, and we get random public passing by, and it doesn't matter how many signs you have. You sometimes will get someone who's walking past with a cigarette. You can sometimes intervene and speak to them and ask them to please, move along, but we're not policemen. We're focusing on our children. It's public space that they're walking close to us, but not smoking a cigarette, but it's not on our property. So we're kind of in that very gray area, and for us to get an 8 for that, when it's completely beyond your control.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead, thank you. Go ahead and let's spend 3 minutes on sidebars. You want to, okay, so 3 minutes on caucus. And, excuse me? Did you add the suggested language for it? She said May. Okay. Do you need additional time? Are we ready? Okay, licensing.
Proposal, we suggest taking 1B and moving it down under E, and 1B would be weighted at a 5. And the rest would be weighted at a 7.
Okay, you're suggesting we take 1B and move it down under E
Yep,
and weight it as a 5?
as a 5. And after she does that, I'll tell you what we're thinking of for 2.
It needs to be like
Oh, I see. You want it to be. Make it under. You want it to change.
So now the A, B, C, D will all be weighted to 7, but the new E will be a 5.
So A, B, C, D would be weighted 7.
Now, under number 2, we are proposing that 2B say not allow anyone on the in the licensed space.
So.
And that one would also be a weight of 7. That whole section would be a weight of 7.
So can I suggest an edit to that? So we have a lot of concerns about the effect of tobacco on kids, and we would actually prefer this if it was within 25 feet of the licensed space, so that you would still be able to go to your outbuilding or whatever, but you are clearly, because they could be right outside. Okay. Those are just entrances and exits, but yeah, I get that. We can leave it.
Can you scroll up, please? Thank you. And we are not comfortable with take steps to prohibit. And we feel like prohibiting is just what you do. Now, if people violate that, then you would take steps to deal with it. But your prohibition on it is pretty obvious.
Okay. Okay, so we just changed. In number 1, we took out the must take steps, and now it's back to the original for number 1. Okay, centers.
So looking at the definition of prohibit, it says formally forbid, make impossible. I don't know how we're going to do that within 25 feet of our entrance when we have public walking past. I don't know how we can actually make impossible.
Putting up your no smoking sign that is clearly stating no smoking is allowed, no cannabis is allowed, no whatever, that is prohibiting. That is saying, right now, I'm putting you on notice that in this facility, these things are not allowed. Now, that doesn't mean I understand. That doesn't mean that you won't have a parent show up, but then you take the steps to resolve it. And we have to comply with RCW. That is a state law.
Okay. Was there another from Centers? Did you have something else? And then please.
We're curious as to what happens when there's a violation and you take care of it. A employee is smoking pot 25 feet in front of your door, whatever, and you have fired that person, et cetera, and you report it. Are you then getting the 7, or is it just if you're not making it, or an 8, or whatever the number is?
It would only occur if we find it. You didn't take action when you knew about it. If you report it to us and say, I had Sally over here, found out she was smoking pot out in the backyard, I have terminated her and want to let you know we're going to go, great job. We are not going to come out and do a... But it would be a violation if we found her doing that. It would be documented.
Okay, I'm hearing, just excuse me, I'm hearing a lot of, do you need additional, okay, you have suggested language?
So I guess this is really towards licensing. So we've had a situation where it wasn't around this subject, but we reported something that happened. I let the person go, but we still got a founded complaint against us. So I just see that happening again here.
Parents?
We'd like to have a sidebar with Dell, the licensors.
Okay, so we're going to... I'm going to grant your sidebar. Yes, go ahead, Family Homes.
What licensing has said, and I've seen these signs. There's a sign posted, no smoking or use of whatever, within 25 feet of this entrance. So did I hear you say, so as long as she's put up that sign by the front door, then that would suffice that she's prohibited. If somebody happens to walk by doing that, you've done your due diligence. We can't control everybody, but you have posted it, it's not allowed, and it would be okay.
Okay. Let's go ahead and take two. Okay. It's on.
On now? Okay. So if the intent for Dale is that we post this, can the WAC just not say that we're required to post, that we prohibit XYZ?
That was an example of how you can show you're prohibiting, but that would imply that you are doing everything you can, that you are letting your staff know, that you are letting people know. It's more than just a posting. It's an action that you're taking with staff. It's an expectation that you have that this will not occur on your facility.
I understand that. So could we, yeah, I mean, if the intent is that it's posted, that we're prohibiting it, you've already agreed that we really cannot do more than that.
No,
What else?
you can do more than that. It's that is a prime example of showing that you are doing it. But there are other things you can also do to show it. And really, when you look at a 7, it doesn't automatically mean that we're going to suspend your license or modify your license. We're going to give technical assistance. If it happens twice, possibly a civil penalty, but only if it were blatant. But when this has become an issue for licensors, it really has put children at risk. And it really is the provider or their household member sitting on the back porch in licensed space with an ashtray, and they're up like this. Or it's alcohol sitting on a floor that is open and children can get to it. it isn't something that we see much of anymore, but it happens. And when it happens, it really is a serious thing in our mind for the children in care. And it's a state law. So
I'm going to call for this to go to a small group for resolution so that we can, you've had great discussion here. I don't think we're making any movement. So let's can put it in our queue for small group resolution. And then we'll move on to another section. So Renee will see if team leads agree with that.
The majority of the team leads will have to leave when we do that, though, right? If agreed.
Yeah, we agree with that.
All right, so we won't do it right now, but I'd like to get a consensus from the team leads. It's going to go in the queue. Family homes, 5. Parents, 5. Dell? Oh, I have a block. Parents? You want to, okay. Okay, so parents they did request a sidebar before we got to this point, and they would like a sidebar with the licensure. Okay. We're gonna do a 2-minute sidebar.
You know, this is another one where a lot of times the issue is the level of trust between providers and Dell. Because, yeah, if she actually got a, what was the finding? What was, and she's not, what did she self-report? What was the teacher?
And not, and someone showing up to look at the children, and call and tell them about it. You did I self-report a lot. Thank God.
Dislocated my niece's elbow once. You did? Yes. Yeah, my little
Oh, you were swinging?
Okay, everybody. We ready? Okay. Okay, so we were in the process of getting consensus, measuring consensus on putting this entire section in the queue, the TA resolution. That's what we were in the process of doing. So if I can have consensus from the team leads, family home, licensing, parents, I'm giving five parents, Head Start, ECAP, 5, and centers to go in the queue, 5. Okay, so we've reached consensus. This whole section is going to go in the queue for TA resolution. And let's go ahead and take a break. A 10-minute break.
Lobbyists internet children.
Yeah, so what's your policy? Policy says that by suspect I can do it right there. And what's your policy around recreation? But he's not
Cannabis is illegal. Georgia can't sell.
Oh, well, then me, it's probably a month. Not that I do it, but I'm just saying. Yeah, that would be interesting. Well, and our bus drivers are, oh yeah, are spot checks quite regularly. Every quarter or 2 weeks, somebody's pulled out for a drug test.
Hello. There are snacks outside if you didn't know. There are snacks outside for anyone who did not know. Looks like there's some chocolate out there.
They live in San Diego. All of it. And he's in his, Toy Story underwear or whatever, and goes to the picture.
No, reasonable. Yeah, well, but then, you know, everything. So we no, there is a definition for it. Oh, they've never done this, they've never said the RCW.
They had no idea what was going on.
What's wrong with him?
He's an alien. We thought you guys got kidnapped. We were just sitting out there. You got kidnapped. You were sitting out there. Posse, fucking. I'm not talking about
That's a good question. Yeah. What was it? Yeah.
There we
All right, we're going to come back together now. Hopefully, y'all got some snacks. So, we're going to come back together and actually, we're going to call for a 2-minute team caucus for teams to talk about what happened with expulsion. So, those of you who are out in the expulsion room, please take some time, talk to your team about what was discussed and why we are where we are, and then we'll come back together and discuss that as a whole. So, 2-minute team caucus on the clock.
Okay. Oh. 5 more minutes. Well, can we do 2 minutes since we had 2-minute caucus? I'm going to give an overview too of it as well, but okay. 2 more minutes. Okay. I'm going to give a quick overview over what we talked about in the expulsion section. 03. I'm bad with the numbers. What was that? What number was that? 0340. I'm terribly sorry. Thank you. So we chatted for quite a while about the edits that had come from Issaquah and different groups preceding it going into the resolution group that we're purposefully not projecting it right now. The most current draft has been distributed to your team leads, and they will be distributing it onto you in its current Word document format. It is being tabled until either January and February or February for a Dell technical rewrite. Made several changes, including the move to, we observed that there is not actually a section in the WAC currently that outlines what should be in your expulsion policy. So, Dell is going to be doing that, and we walked through, we made a bulleted list plus a little bit more solid stuff that the group expected to be in that ultimate section. And along with that, that section is referenced in the other sections that are in currently 0340, and they currently reference that section that's yet to be created. So we cannot, at this time, move to consensus on it. Would any of the folks who are in there like to jump in, add in, anything like that? Did I give a very, very overall, high level, 30,000 feet? Anything you want to add?
All right. Are you just wanting us to share like an overall what we were looking at? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nope. I think he hit everything on the head.
Okay. Go ahead, Eva.
I think one thing that we talked about, and I think each of the people who were in that group at your table will bring back to you that Debbie brought up the justifications that in your NRM binder that you got in the beginning, why DEL came up with this rule, that each of the groups should really be reviewing those justifications as well to fully understand the expulsion whack now. So just before we meet again, if everybody can kind of review those, that will help as well.
And something to keep in mind in the current section, someone in the group made a very good observation that how that's structured, it talks about what you do before you expel someone, as you're expelling someone, and then what you do after you expel someone. Thank you. So keep that in mind as you're thinking about the flow of how that particular section's set up. But other than that, I'm going back out there. We are going to move to TA and resolution for section 0420. Heard it was quite contentious. Prohibited substances. The one that we just talked about. So we are going to have resolution group for that right now. You can meet me out in the resolution area.
Okay, let me look into your right.
All right, looks to me like family home, did you send somebody? You sent somebody. Licensing, did you send? Parents? Did you send people out already? Yes. Okay, Head Start, ECAP? Good. Centers? Good, all right. Let's get started then again. Unless parents need some time. Do you need a team caucus? Parents, do you need a little more time? Okay, so we'll put 2 minutes on the clock for a team caucus. Okay, let's get started again. This is 0425, initial non-expiring dual licenses and license modifications. So this one went out to a subgroup where I believe in person, and so it's first time coming into full group. Okay, 0425. Number one, the department may issue an initial license when an early learning program applicant demonstrates compliance with health and safety requirements of this chapter, but may not be in full compliance with all requirements pursuant to RCW 280. A, initial license is valid for 6 months from the date issued. B, at the department's discretion, an initial license may be extended for up to 3 additional 6-month periods, not to exceed a total of 2 years. C, the department must evaluate the early learning provider's ability to follow requirements contained in this chapter during the initial license period. Weight of NA. 2, the department may issue a non-expiring license to a licensee operating under an initial license who, pursuant to RCW 260A, demonstrates full compliance with requirements of this chapter at any time during the period of initial licensure. Weight of NA. 3, the department may continue a non-expiring license when a licensee submits annual compliance documents at least 30 calendar days prior to the anniversary date. The anniversary date is the date the first initial license was issued, pursuant to RCW 260. The required annual compliance or documentation documents are A, the annual non-refundable license fee, B, a declaration of the department's form found at this link, indicating 1, the intent to continue operating a licensed early learning program, 2, the intent to cease operation on a licensed early learning program, 3, a change in the early learning program's operational hours or dates, or 4, the intent to comply with all licensing rules. C, documentation of completed background check applications as determined by the department's established schedule pursuant to RCW 215 subsection 2. And D, for each individual required to have a background check clearance, the early learning provider must verify current background checks or require the individual to submit a background check application at least 30 days prior to the anniversary date. 4, that's weight of NA. 4, if a licensee fails to meet the requirements for continuing a non-expiring license by their anniversary date, the licensee's current license expires. The early learning provider must submit a new application for licensure pursuant to RCW 260 subsection 3, weight of NA. 5, nothing about the non-expiring license process in this section may interfere with the department's established monitoring practices pursuant to RCW 260 subsection 4A, weight of NA. 6, a licensee has no right to an adjudicative proceeding, hearing, to appeal the expiration, non-renewal, or non-continuation of a non-expiring license resulting from a failure to comply with the requirements of this section. Weight of NA. 7, a licensee must have department approval to hold dual licenses, such as the department-issued early learning program license and another caregiving license, certification, or similar authorization. Weight of 6. 8, if the department determines that a licensee is not meeting all applicable requirements and regulations pursuant to RCW 300, A, the department and licensee may agree to modify the child care license. B, the licensee may give up one of the license certifications or authorizations. Or C, the department may suspend, deny, or revoke the early learning license. Weight of NA. 9, an early learning provider must report to the department and local authorities the following within 24 hours. A, a fire or other structural damage to the early learning program space or other parts of the premises. B, a retirement, termination, death, incapacity, or change of a program director or program supervisor, or change of ownership or incorporation of a provider. C, when a provider becomes aware of a charge or a conviction against themselves, a staff person, or household member. D, when a provider becomes aware of an allegation or finding of abuse, neglect, maltreatment, or exploitation of a child or vulnerable adult made against themselves, a staff person, or a household member, if applicable. A weight of 7. I guess this is E, a change in the number of household members living within a family home early learning program space. This includes individuals 14 years old or older that move in or out of the home, or resignation or termination pursuant to RCW 371. A birth or death affecting the number of household members must be reported within 24 hours or at first opportunity. And F, any changes in the early learning program hours of operation to include closure dates. So E and F are a weight of 3. 10, prior to increasing capacity of an early learning program, the licensee, center director, assistant director, or program supervisor must request and be approved to increase capacity by DEL, weight of 5. 11, licensee, center director, assistant director, or program supervisor must have state fire marshal or department approval and comply with local building ordinances following a significant change under WAC 0402 subsection 1A through C, if applicable, weight of 6. 12, licensee, center director, assistant director, or program supervisor must notify the department within 30 calendar days when liability insurance coverage under RCW 535 has lapsed or been terminated, a wait of 4. Okay, so I'm actually going to propose that we move straight into team caucus first, so you guys can get your concerns and questions and propose language changes or weight changes, and then come back together. Bless you. So again, I'm going to propose team caucus first. Make sure that your concerns, you're on the same page about your concerns and any changes that you have. You did not do that on 0425. All right, so I'm going to put 2 minutes on the clock for team caucus on 0425. Licensing is asking for 2 more minutes, so we're going to add it to the clock. right, so team caucus time is up. Parents would like to call for a sidebar with licensing, if licensing is ready. Okay, so licensing needs 1 more minute before the sidebar. You can continue. All right, so we're going to begin the 2 minutes of official sidebar between licensing and parents. All right, who wants to start? I know we have some proposed language and weight changes, so let's. Okay, so we're going to get started. I know they're from the sidebars, some proposed language and weight changes. So we'll start with licensing's proposed changes.
Okay, the first one that we have is that we believe 8 should actually be 7A because we think it is relating directly to those dual licenses. So it would be 7A and then little I, double I, etc. And then we are wondering, and we didn't come up with a firm plan on this, but we wondered if number 9 should, and more, should be moved out of this section because it is more of reporting. You know, they have to report. So we did ask why this was in here to begin with, and they said they did anything that could affect a license. So I'm just throwing that out there as a maybe, and we didn't have a strong recommendation either way on it, but we just wanted to bring it up.
So the new 8, I'm sorry, so that Laura, you can catch up. Yes, it would be the new 8, can you tell us again?
The new 8 could maybe be moved to a reporting section.
Okay.
Although we can't actually find one, so we might have to create it.
A circumstantial reporting section may need to be created with this part.
Okay, before we receive comments on what Dell has proposed, are there any other proposals that we can put on the board? Centers.
So regarding the new 8, that was 9, but 8C. Okay. Hold on, 8D, sorry.
8D.
D. Oh, nope, C. C, C, C. It was taken out, the disqualifying crime part, and we just don't understand really why that was taken out, because if it's a charge that has nothing to do with your capacity to watch children, why should that have to be reported? Is what we were curious about.
So you would propose
Put
that
back
language comes
in.
back in.
Yes. And then the other proposal we had was around. That was Rachel's. And then the other one is around number 10, now number 9, probably. Oh, sorry, I'll let you. Okay. So new number 9, down. Yep. There's a note in here that it could be duplicative because we already extensively talk about capacity. It's good to call it out here that, yes, initially you might have one capacity and then you need to request for increasing capacity, but all of the capacity stuff is in 0355 and it is weighted there. So if we could leave this language here to call it out to people to make sure that you need to get that okayed by Dell, but that the actual determination of capacity is already weighted elsewhere.
So you're proposing a weight of NA.
Exactly. And that was, I don't know if Dell checked on that because Hallie had notes from this that called to that, spoke to that, but I don't know what was ever determined. In 0355 is
Hallie. Hallie's going to Australia.
That's super fun.
Yeah. I'll let her know you miss her. Okay, are there any other language changes? And then we'll go through them in order. Okay, let's start back up to the top then. And when we hit the language changes, we'll discuss any comments that people have. So number 1, we'll measure consensus on 1 and a weight of NA. Okay, family childcare, all 5s. Licensing, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. And centers, all 5s. Number 2, we'll measure consensus on the language and the weight of NA. Is that a comment? Oh, no. Licensing is ready. They have all 5s. Measuring consensus on number 2. Family child care, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. And centers, all 5s. Okay. Then we'll move into number 3, the language and, again, a weight of NA. Measuring consensus on number 3. All right, family child care, all 5s. Licensing, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Head Start ECAP, 5s and 1 3. And centers, all 5s. So we'll hear from Head Start ECAP about their concern.
So the first sentence that, the department may continue, sorry, there's a 2 or there's a word missing. Oh, it's not. Everybody calm down. There's a word missing in the first sentence.
The department may continue to, well, we,
No, may continue a non-expiring license.
Well, there's something wrong with it. It doesn't
may
read
continue.
right. Mrs. Voorhees would not be
AN
happy.
is what we need, I believe. No, let's just leave a comment here. Let's leave a comment here to point out that there's a grammatical mistake. Yeah. Does that feel? Yes. I hear you. All right, so Lori stated that for the tech writers to fix that up, so we can move into number 4. Okay, let's measure consensus on number 4, weight of NA. Family child care 5s, and is that a 4? Was that a 4? Okay, all 5s, licensing, sorry, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Head Start ECAP, I can't see here, 5s, thank you. And centers, all 5s. Okay, number 5. Let's move into number 5, language and weight of NA, measuring consensus on number 5. Family child care, all 5s. Licensing, all 5s. Head Start parents, I'll come back. Parents, all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. And centers, all 5s. Then we'll move into number 6, language and weight, measure consensus. Family child care, all 5s. Licensing, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. And centers, all 5s. All right, number 7 is the first time we have some changes. So we're moving 8 into a subsection A, and then all the following into subsections under that. And do we propose the weight change here? Or oh, okay, I see. So now that we moved it under, the weight is 6 on the main section, and then A through I are weight of NA. Okay, so we'll try to measure consensus here, see how it goes. I'll come back to family child care. Okay, licensing is all 5s. Sorry. You're thinking. Do you want to just have a 1-minute team caucus? Okay, 1 minute on the clock. So let's go back to licensing since they called for the team caucus.
There is no issue.
There is no issue.
It's been dealt with.
Family child care, you're ready. So we're going to measure consensus on 7 as is. Family child care, all 5s. Licensing, all 5s. Yep, the whole thing. All of 7, the new 7, including the IIIs. Parents are all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. And centers, all 5s. Okay, 8. This is the one that Dell recommended to move out. So let's measure consensus on moving this out into its new section. So that would mean that we would send it out to Dell Tech Writers and have it come back either in January or February. So measuring, yes.
Do the language and the weight now, it would just be a case of then we would suggest to the tech writers that they may consider moving that out. We're not recommending that it otherwise needs changing.
Okay, but I believe centers are.
Yes, and we'll respond to that.
Okay, so centers again. Let's scroll down to where. So centers, what they did. Centers re-included the if part of the on C. You reinstated the if applicable and the charge conviction is disqualifying crime pursuant to WAC 17006. So licensing will respond.
That we want it left in is, number one, it kind of says in the background WAC that any charge that could affect their ability to care for kids, and it doesn't just say disqualifying. Where we come at from it is if you had somebody that got picked up on a DUI, while they're not disqualified and they certainly can still be on site, we may want to be talking to you about whether or not they should be transporting children, given that this is the 5th one they've had in the last year and a half, you know, so it's...
Could we put if applicable? Because like, what if I don't transport? So then a DUI wouldn't be applicable.
But there, I mean, that was just an example.
No, I know,
There-
but that was actually the thing we were talking about over here is if someone if I went and got a DUI, but I don't transport and there's no bearing on, I mean, it's probably I'd make questionable decisions, but.
There just is, I mean, there is a character piece of the background WAC that makes it important for us to be aware. Most of the time, it's not going to mean anything, but every now and then it does. And that was why that was removed. And it's in the background WAC that anything that could potentially affect the care of children
So
should
could
be
we have
reported.
the care of children part put in here?
Any other non-conviction and conviction.
Okay. Any other non-conviction and conviction information for a crime that could be reasonably related to the subject individual's suitability to provide care for or have unsupervised access to children in care.
In a second, maybe. So your proposal is after the colon, semicolon, to add that language that you just said? Is that right? No. No.
Yeah, and I mean, yes, that's the information because say I shoplifted. I was charged. Maybe someone thought I did. Maybe my child stole a toy from Mobius on accident, which has definitely happened. I don't want to have to report that. I know. We went back and we paid for it. Anyway, he did have to report. But, so that kind of stuff, though.
So can you say to me again what your proposed change is?
I mean, we just recite the background check
I
language.
mean, even if we could reference the background WAC and that
Yeah.
specific number.
Okay, so we would cross this out, still, make it recrossed out, and reference, after household member, reference that background check WAC. Am I hearing you correctly?
No. We would just say, and the charge or conviction.
When a provider becomes aware of a charge or conviction against themselves, a staff person, or household member. Okay. I think that language is already up above, Lori.
Pursuant to WAC 17006, and then whatever the final number is. But it's, I hate to tell you this, Nicole, but if you shoplifted under the current director's list, you're a 5-year disqual.
Write him out.
But it does come down to sometimes it's hard for the provider to know what's on that list also. And so rather than to be making that judgment, we can quickly let you know whether or not it's a problem.
Karen, what's the exact number?
Oh, it's 0043.
Yeah, you can just cross out and the charge or conviction to say pursuant to. Okay, I'm going to measure consensus on just the new language of C. Measuring consensus on just the new language of C. Licensing have all fives. Family childcare all fives. Do you need a team caucus? 1-4. Thank you. Okay, 1 minute team caucus on the clock. Do you have comments or can we measure consensus? Okay, so is it gonna block consensus? Huh? Are you gonna block consensus? Yeah. All right, so centers will hear from you first.
We would be more comfortable if it was just conviction, not charge, because people can be charged for, I mean, we are not judge and jury, so to have it be a charge seems like that is not something we're comfortable with.
Background, lapses, charge, and conviction. Or conviction, or.
Charge them?
Or and.
Or.
Or.
It says or. Or.
Okay, family childcare.
We just want a little clarification. If we were to approve it as it stands right now, then when it comes out, like next year, is this going to be enforced, whereas you're going to look back, words at everybody and see if there's been any issues, or is it just moving forward?
Licensing, can you respond to that?
It's currently in WAC. You're currently required to report if you become aware of something. So, no, there isn't going to be any going backwards. It's just to continue to move forward.
Okay, so I'm going to attempt to measure consensus again. Yes, Head Start UCAP.
We have one question about C, which is that we have removed the if applicable there. So it sort of reads like any old household member of any center staff might be. So I would recommend that we return if applicable in number C.
Okay. Yeah. So the proposal is to put back on the table if applicable. So when a provider becomes aware of a charge or conviction against themselves, a staff person or household member, if applicable, pursuant to WAC 170-06-0043. All right, licensing, and then we'll go to parents.
Just a second.
I'm going to try. I think where it's applicable, it's only in regards to the household member. So it's always about a licensee and a staff person, but because they all have to do the background check. But it's, yep, you're getting her. It's the applicable household member of a certain age. Does that make sense?
Okay, so we can, instead of wordsmithing on the screen, we could write a comment bubble to make sure that we're, yes, licensing.
We actually think you could take out if and just have or applicable household member, and that will make it very clear that we're talking about household members.
And you don't need
Okay. Parents had a comment, and then we'll go to centers.
No, we didn't have a comment.
Okay. Oh, gotcha.
So could we, I don't know if someone else can pull up some other documentation, but when we pull up that WAC about the background check, it only says conviction unless we are completely missing something.
It says non-conviction and conviction information. Yep.
Did you guys hear that from Lori?
Oh, yep.
So in WAC 170-060-043, it's any non-conviction or conviction information relating to, that could reasonably relate to the subject's individual suitability, et cetera, et cetera.
And non-conviction information would include being charged. So you're not convicted yet, but it's related.
Okay, now let's step back, and I'm going to measure consensus on C as is when we put, so I'll read it again just to be sure. When a provider becomes aware of a charge or conviction against themselves, a staff person, or applicable household member pursuant to WAC 170-06-0043. So measuring consensus on C. Licensing, all fives. Family, childcare, all fives. Parents, all fives. Head Start, ECAP, all fives. And centers have a comment. We'll measure, we're good, but we're going to hear your comment.
All that we previously said. Good?
Okay.
Okay.
You got that, Hillary?
Just the charges and how they might not be related, but having to report unrelated charges might call into question character that isn't relevant.
So we'll let Lori catch up. And measure consensus now on all of 8, the language and the weight, knowing that we're going to put it elsewhere. We just did that for C. So we're going to go back and do all of 8 now. All of 8, the language and the weight. So I'm measuring all of 8, language and weight. Family childcare, all fives. Licensing, all fives. Parents, all fives. Head Start, ECAP, all fives. Centers, all fives. All right, great. So the note has been made, right, Lori? That will be moved. So 8. All right. And then let's move to 9 then. Yes, we did all of that though. Okay, let's move to number 9. This is where, I'm sorry, I forgot which group, wanted to move the weight from 5 to NA because it's weighted in 0355. So I'll measure, centers did that, so I'll measure consensus on number 9 and weight of NA. Unless you need a team caucus.
We can go first. 1, 2, 3.
Licensing looks like they need a team caucus. We'll put 1 minute on the clock for licensing.
Careful, if you sidebar with us, you'll have to get involved.
involved in synchronized voting. That's what she's trying to say.
Licensing has a comment on this one.
Okay, we see this as different than 0355 because this is trying to make sure that people understand that before they increase capacity, they have to request it. And so it is a different animal.
Do we all need to look at 0355? We actually reached consensus on this yesterday. So licensing, are you saying that you would want to keep it away to 5?
Yes. It is about making the request before they move to have additional children. And being approved by us to have additional children.
Okay, so I'm gonna I call for another 1-minute team caucus and encourage any sidebars that might need to happen.
We should ask about that though with expedited license, that gets more sloppy. I mean, but I guess about
It's not, it's like, I mean, basically, if you were only licensed for 6 and you had 7 kids, they were breaking your license. You know, because you are breaking capacity. So you're going to be breaking capacity and paying for this. I agree. That's the only, I mean, capacity is capacity. And you have to. There are 2 sites right now that we're running this, right?
I'll state for the record that Center sidebarred with family child care and now is sidebarring with licensing. For the record.
nobody's sidebar with us at all. Rachel did. That's why we don't
so time is up unless Nicole wants to officially sidebar with Head Start ECAP. All right, so where are we on this one? Number 9, let's hear from centers, since you are the United Nations delegate.
We understand that this would be a separate WAC because it isn't general capacity. This is increasing your capacity from like one number to the next. So it is a different WAC. We're good with the weight.
So you're good with a 5?
We're good with the 5.
All right, let's measure a consensus on number 9 with a weight of 5. Family, childcare, all 5s. Licensing, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. And centers, all 5s. Great. Thanks for all the sidebarring. Glad it worked out. Okay, so number 10, we added or department back before, so nothing has really changed here. So we'll measure consensus on 10 at a weight of 6. Yes, licensing.
We would propose that we take the weight off of this because this one we already addressed. But we would like to leave it here for informational purposes and maybe have it refer back to the WAC that we already addressed this in.
Do you know which one it is so we can put in the notes? Oh, the one that's right in the language. Got it. Okay, so let's measure consensus on 10 with a weight of NA. Family, childcare. 5s, licensing, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. And centers, all 5s. Last but not
so
least,
I have a.
yes, you have a. I'm sorry, I missed it. Head Start ECAP had 1-3.
I forgot to share one of our table's concerns about the previous one, which was so the prior approval from Dell. I just want to, as an implementation note, want to raise the issue of programs being asked to or are applying to expand ECAP and the difficulty of getting your site licensed. And so we're interested in some sort of expedited process to be able to meet the other contracts that we're trying to fulfill and, you know, still be safe for children. So I just want to raise that. It's becoming kind of an issue, both with ECAP and Head Start.
Okay, thank you, Katie. We'll note that concern. Okay, again, not last but not least, let's hit number 11. At a weight of a 4, there were no changes to this. So I'll measure consensus on 11. Family, child care. 5s and 2 4s. Licensing, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. And centers, all 5s. Round of applause. That was a long one. Okay, so let's move. It's 3:47. We have a break at 4, so I'm going to propose that we move into 0430. It's a short one, you can see, and then we'll take the break.
Okay. All right, 0430. An early learning provider or program that receives child care subsidy payments under the Working Connections Child Care or seasonal programs must, 1, be licensed, certified, or contracted by the department, and this has a weight of 1, and, oh, that's right, wait, no, NA, my apologies. Number 2, follow all requirements and timeframes of WAC 0125, and it has a weight of 3. All right, we're voting. Okay. Oh, no, we are measuring consensus. All right. Centers, you're still, okay, I'm going to go to Head Start ECAP, all 5s. Centers, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Licensing, all 5s. And family homes, 5s and 1 4. Okay. Yeah. I did the whole thing. Yeah.
We're trying to see if we should do one more.
Yeah.
We got it. We got it. We can do this.
Do 2 or 3 more.
Okay. Okay, so we're gonna do. We're gonna, all right. 0435. Waiver from department rules. No. Waiver from department rules. What? Number 1, the department cannot waive a requirement of state RCW or federal law. No wait. Number 2, pursuant to RCW 070, the department may approve a waiver from a rule in this chapter if it does not jeopardize the health, safety, or welfare of the children in care. No wait. Number 3, an early learning provider's request for a waiver from a rule in this chapter must be A, submitted in writing on the department's form found at this link to the local licensing office. B, approved by the department prior to the provider following the waiver from the rule. C, for a specific program, need, or child. D, posted for a parent or guardian and public view when a requested waiver is related to the overall program, not specific to any child. And E, continually posted as long as the waiver is approved, that has a weight of 1. 4, waivers from the rule may be time-specific. If time-specific, the early learning provider's action on the waiver must not exceed the time frame established by the department. That has no weight. Number 5, the department's disapproval of a request for a waiver for the rules is not subject to appeal under Chapter 170-03 of the WAC, DEL hearing rules, and that has no weight. Okay. 2-minute team caucus?
Yes. I think that waiver should be appealable. The license. No, it's probably the licensor if it's not part of the sidebar. What's the waiver process? Is it just the license or why can't you appeal it?
Okay, Head Start is sidebarring with licensing and centers, 3-way sidebar. Do you need additional time? Okay, 2 more minutes?
And maybe but that's the part I think that because and maybe appeal isn't the right word, but there's not a grievance panel review process for waivers because it becomes really biased.
Head Start licensing? You need more? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so Head Start?
Yeah. So I feel much better now having had a sidebar.
We're happy for you.
We're gonna, per our conversation with Dell, so our position here is that we believe that there should be a waiver process. This is about number 3, so, and number 2. So we, or whatever it is, 4, I guess, the appeal, the one where it says that there's no ability to appeal your waiver, your lack of waiver, your denied waiver. So we have some concerns about that. We really believe that there should be some sort of process where this gets bumped upstairs and there's a review process around these waivers. We have concerns about the consistency of the licensing system across the state, and so in terms of fairness and better policy in the end across the whole system, we would like there to be a waiver system. So Dell, we're recommending that this go back to Dell and that some research be done either about whether or not this is allowable, because there's some question about whether they're even allowed to have an appeals process or in the WAC, or whether there can be some commitment on Dell's part to set up a system by which we have some redress when we have issues around this.
Okay. All right, any comments on that? All right, so then, all right, well, let's go ahead and then, and that's just for this number. You know what? So it's number, so do we want to measure consensus just to table this whole section?
So
is that?
We're okay with
everything
consensusing on the other parts, if that's a real word, which I guess now it is.
Okay. We made it up.
On the other part, we're only concerned about the
Number 5.
appeal.
Okay, so let's go ahead then and measure consensus on. We'll start with number 1. Okay, family homes, all 5s. Licensing, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Head Start, CAP, all 5s. And centers, all 5s. That's number 1. Number 2, let's measure consensus on number 2. Family homes, all 5s and 1 4. Licensing, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Head Start, ECAP, all 5s. And centers, all 5s. Number 3, family homes, all 5s and 1 4. Licensing, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Head Start, ECAP, all 5s. And centers, all 5s. Number 4. So measure consensus on number 4. Is number 5 is the one that we're going to consensus for table, right? Okay. So number 4. Family homes, all 5s and 1 4. Licensing, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Head Start ECAP, all 5s. And Centers, all 5. All right, this last one. And Lori's going to make a note. And what we're going to do is when Lori's done with her notes, we're going to measure consensus to send number 5 back to Dell for rewrite. Is that right? Send it all back for rewrite. Table it to next round. Licensing, yes.
Okay, so what we do know is that we don't believe we can eliminate number 5. What we would end up needing to do is leave number 5 in, but then if Dell can come up with some other language, we would do it for a 6. Because under the hearing rules, it's not appealable. But if Dell can come up with another plan, a super review or something else, then that would be added to this. And if you want to wait to do it until then, that's fine. But I believe this rule will still need to stand.
Yeah, you know, we don't have to use the word appeal. We can have this be a grievance practice or a super review or something like that. And, you know, we would even be open to some sort of a commitment from Dell that, I mean, even if it's not in WAC, if you can have processes within Dell that allow this, although I would much prefer that it be in WAC.
Okay. Okay, so I'm just, what I thought I heard, licensing, were you going to say something?
I was just going to propose that we go ahead and take consensus on this one, but we won't lose the other piece,
Right.
because that other piece would be separate from this.
Okay, can we go ahead and measure consensus on it? All right, so for number 5, family homes, I see a 3. I see a block. Okay, family homes is blocking number 5. And centers blocking 5. Head Start, ECAP is blocking 5. Parents are blocking 5. Okay, so we want to make sure if everyone heard what Head Start, what their concerns was, everyone in alignment with what Head Start had said and why we're blocking. Okay. All right. So then we are going to take a measure consensus to send this, to table this, right? All right, and Dell will. You want to hear doing consensus for me? Yeah. Okay. All right, here we go. Let's measure consensus on 5. Oh. All right. Let's take. Let's do 5. All right. We're tabling 5 for Dell, and we're done.
I'm going to give us a partial for that one.
Oh. And it's break time. So you want to take your break?
Where is Tucker right now?
You're not good. Well, we do have public comments.
I was thinking, I think I need the puppy to get to. Where did you eat it? Oh, you ate it in the other room?
I'm going to measure, well, you guys aren't going to have enough people anyways. I'm going to call for a 5-minute break instead of a 10-minute break because we already have some parents that are going to take their break. 5 minutes. It is 4:04, so we'll go to 4:10. We're coming back at 4:10. 6-minute break.
Where are you going? Oh, airplane. You have to catch an airplane. Oh, yeah.
we have, all they do is follow the law. And as much as you try to work with them, like to spread out and pass, it's just
not,
they're not
they're not there, right? That's cute.
Yeah, they just
So cute.
Yeah. Michael, the same thing, he used to do indoor and Did you go with him?
Mine is.
Oh, here. No, this is
No, give me the cup, as long as you're picking it up.
If you're gonna take that every dog,
I know.
I know, we have to kind of have to have that.
Christmas dinner together? Yeah, I was gonna say.
Are you guys coming over to our side at all, or, you know? Katie, you're gonna have to fly them over so we can have holiday drinks. Yeah, and don't forget me either, because I really want Selena. Okay, thank you. Okay, so she never saw me. And because she is gonna be more focused on, she's trying to, you know, she's great, you know that. There's not a question, but she just wants to run. She's tired.
I know.
With Linda Donnelly, and we're hiring a new physical coordinator. So that person and Linda Donnelly are doing it with other
your group is. All right, so we're gonna come back together. I see some people still outside. If you could help us bring your group back, that'd be great. We're gonna get started again. You just need half plus one in the room. Half plus one, you can minus out the people in the resolution group, and that's a lot of math. I think family childcare would need at least one more person in order to make it work. Okay, perfect. I don't see Carol. Okay, and Kevin's coming back. All right. So we have about 15 minutes before public comment, so let's try to work through at least one more. So we're on 0436, variance from department rules. Whack. Okay. Number one, the department cannot provide variance from a requirement in state RCW or federal law. Weight of NA. 2, upon written request of an applicant, licensee, center director, assistant director, or program supervisor, the department may grant a variance from a rule in this chapter if the proposed program alternative does not jeopardize the health, safety, or welfare of the children in care. Weight of NA. 3, a request for a variance from a rule in this chapter must be A, submitted in writing to the local licensing office using a department form found here. B, approved by the department director or the director's designee prior to the early learning provider implementing the variance from the rule. C, for a specific program approach or methodology. And D, posted for public view and filed if approved. Weight of 1. So I'm hearing a little bit of chatter. I don't know who it was from because I was looking. But if I could ask everyone to focus for another 15 minutes, we can hopefully get through at least one or maybe two before public comment. Thanks, everyone. The new number 4. A granted variance may be time limited or may remain in effect for as long as the early learning program provider continues to comply with the conditions of the variance. If the variance from the rule is time limited, the provider must not exceed the time frame established by the department at a weight of 1. And then U5, the department's disapproval of requests for a variance from the rule is not subject to appeal under Chapter 170.03 WAC Dell Hearing Rules. Weight of NA. I'm going to go ahead and call for a 2-minute team caucus. All right, 2 minutes on the clock. Who would you like to sidebar with? Centers would like to sidebar with Head Start. Do you accept that? Okay. Centers and Head Start, ECAP, can you, family childcare, enter? All right. So we'll have a sidebar over here, 3-way, and the others will team caucus. For the record, parents are joining the sidebar. For the record, licensing is also going to join the sidebar. A 5-way sidebar.
Well, she's doing that, so that's not you know, she's welcome people and whatever you said.
Time for the sidebar is up. We'll add an additional 1 minute. Additional 1 minute on the clock. We're adding 2 more minutes to the sidebar.
Had a natural conversation, you can have it sooner than either, but, you know, whatever. I flow with whatever. Got to. So, Carol's still on. All right, so that's time. Who would like to make comment? Heads or ECAP?
Oh, I love it when everything gets quiet before I talk. Okay, so we've been talking with all of the teams, so there's two main things for Head Start ECAP. One is that we're going to propose that we would like to propose another section, but we haven't worked out language. So maybe we will talk about tabling that for January. And this would be to allow for kind of a programmatic variance. So, for example, we would submit a variance request for everybody who is doing ECAP or everybody who is doing Head Start based on the performance standards that they're meeting, and then that would apply to all of the different Head Starts or ECAPs in the state, rather than each individual contractor or center having to apply for a variance from their local licensor. So that language we will work with Dell, and they'll talk to they're going to talk to see if that might be a possibility, and so we're going to propose that we would approve most of this section with the proviso that we really would like to include that, and we want that to be brought back in January. The other part is similar to the previous one, where that you can't appeal, and we would like to have some sort of review process where we can make our case and get some sort of, whether it's appeal or a grievance process or whatever that is. So. Oh, and the other part is that we want to make sure that family childcare is added to this list up top. It's not just about centers who we would want variances for. We have and we'll have more in the future, ECAP and Head Start and Early Head Start within family childcare, and we would want the variance to apply to them as well if they are in good standing with ECAP or Head Start.
Sorry, Katie, that's an actual edit, right? It's not a comment box one?
Yeah,
It's
that's
edit
an
to the link,
actual
right?
edit.
So Lori, can you
Where-
tell us where, Katie?
On number 2, you would have to add family childcare provider.
No, that's an applicant or a licensee.
Oh, licensee. Okay. Okay, so as long as it's understood that everybody is included in that. So that's all.
Okay. Any other teams? Any proposed changes? Yes, family childcare.
We were also looking at taking the weight off number 5, like it is for the variances, as the same as it is for variances and waivers.
So the new number 4 would be, okay. Any other proposed changes? All right, then we'll start back at the top. So let's measure consensus on number 1 at a weight of NA. Family childcare, all 5s, licensing, all 5s, parents, all 5s, Head Start, ECAP, all 5s, and centers, all 5s. All right, let's move to number 2, measuring the language and weight of NA. Family childcare, 5s and 1-4, licensing, all 5s, parents, I'll come back to you, Head Start, ECAP, all 5s, and centers, all 5s. Okay, parents all 5s, great. Let's move to number 3. No changes here. Consensus on 3. Family childcare, 5s, 1-4. Licensing, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. 1-4. Head Start, ECAP, all 5s. And centers, all 5s. So we'll move to the new 4 at the weight of NA. Family childcare, all 5s. Licensing, all 5s. Parents, all 5s. Head Start, ECAP, all 5s. And centers, all 5s. And number 5, we'll measure consensus on also tabling this, sending it to Del Tech writers, and coming back in January, as well as looking at the full Head Start, ECAP variance process. Okay. Measuring consensus on tabling this and sending it to Del Tech writers. Table. Yes. Okay, so let's measure consensus on that. Agreed. Why are you telling me that? Okay. I'm tabling it. Oh, I get it. Like, am I not saying that out loud? Okay, I think we've reached consensus on tabling it. Thank you. Okay, we have 3 minutes till public comment, so instead of going to the next section, I think we'll pull the rest of the members back and we'll reconvene. Yes, I will add another half to the thermometer. I'll let you know that when you do that other half, that means we've reached consensus on 11 today. So very nice job. Yesterday was 13, today 11. Again, the regular pace is about 10. So we'll grab your other team members and we'll move to public comment at 4:30.
It would literally be immaculate conception if I was pregnant.
You don't need to overshare.
or at least very clear variances due to experience or education. And I need it to place because they said the company scores. We're supposed to vote on these.
I have a
with the
whole
list that they're gonna
host
get.
of them in here. I also have sleeping ones in here as well.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, I have eliminated ibuprofen and stuff. I got shingles really bad, and the oil that I use, you just sit before, and it's in 3 days before I even ask your doctor. I'm a firm believer. I just use it when I calm down and go to sleep. My daughter-in-law asked for diffusion is big enough for her whole living room. I'm a firm believer. My mom uses it she uses it for we use it to clean, eliminated all chemical cleaning products. How are you doing? You survived?
Yeah,
ready
for
to drink? You wanna, did you get marijuana? We did.
We're not finished, but they still have to work in the line.
Oh.
Parents, they want, you know how like daycares, they use their own
I could choose if I didn't want to put my child in there. Good for her. Disclaimer.
Because they have it like
I was going to say you do it for cats. If you're allergic to cats, you would take your child there.
All right, everyone, we're going to get started with our public comment period. It's just after 4:30. All right, so we're going to get started with public comment. So we want to first of all thank you all so much for coming. We know that some of you had to travel very far, and it's a Saturday, so we really appreciate you coming out. I want to make sure that I know you all got a handout when you came. I want to make sure you understand that everything we've reviewed on the screen has been reviewed in a small group before. And so that's why some of them have moved along pretty quickly, because there's been a lot of discussion ahead of time. And we have 3 people signed up. If other people want to raise their hand and say that you also want to speak, that's okay as well. We have 30 minutes, and we'll start off with 3 minutes per person that would like to speak. And we're actually going to, as you saw, we use our bell a lot for our timer, so we're going to use that as well for public comment. All right, so I'll just ask who wants to go first.
All righty. Is it there? Okay. For those of you who don't know me, some people do, my name is Deborah Thurber, and I'm a family child care provider. I've been doing it for, I also had a center, so 29 years in January. And I'm also the current Eastern Washington Family Child Care Association president. So I'm not sure you knew, I'm sure you didn't know this, but I've actually been praying for each and one of you when you embarked on this journey. And I want to thank you for your time that you take away from your families and things to be here and do this. And I hope you took sincere consideration with each and every word of the WACs that you've rewritten, because each of these words will not only affect me personally as a child care provider, but my personal family it will affect. It will also affect every child that I do care for and their families, as well as the rest of the families and children in the state of Washington. I'm in this profession because I want to nurture, comfort, and teach and care for children. And I don't want to be doing an impossible list of cleaning suggestions that you guys have written. I only netted just over $6,200 after expenses last year. So I am not in this business for the money. That's what I netted. And I'm licensed for 12 children. I've been following the process, and there are some WACs that will force providers out of business, which will in turn put the children that they care for into possibly unlicensed child care. Because what you've written is making it impossible for us to stay in business. Since you're nearing the end of this process, and I understand that you're going to be going back and rereading some of the WACs that you've already written, I hope that you take in consideration that if you had the privilege to stay home with 6 of your children, say you had 6 children, you were able to stay home with them, and your spouse says, sure, you can do that, but here's a book that you're going to have to follow every day when you're here home with the children. And then they're going to come home at the end of the day, and they're going to look through your list, and they're going to go through a list, and they're going to check off and say, no, you didn't do this today, and you didn't do this today, because maybe you had a teething child that you could not, you had to rock during nap time, something to get them to soothe down. And you're going to get written up, and you're going to get penalized, because those weights alone could possibly put a provider out of business, because now that your spouse is going to find you for what you didn't do that day. And I'm sure you wouldn't take that from your spouse, but that's something that child care providers live with every day. Thank you.
I'm Angela Howerton. I as well want to thank everybody, because I know all the great work that you've done and are still continue to do. I am a family child care provider in Spokane Valley, and I just would like you to keep an open mind when you're looking through all these, and think of the providers that work by themselves. I understand, a lot of people do have staff, and a lot of centers have extra staff that can help at times or whatever. I just would like to have you think about the ones that do work alone and how it affects their home environment and their working environment and their home space that they use. Some providers would like to only take infants, and with the way these WACs are going, that some of the WACs that are written are impossible to follow, to take infants, and now it's considered toddlers as well. So it makes it much harder to take care of the young ones. Sorry, I'm nervous. So it's very difficult, and I know many providers that right now will not take infants, and now they've told me they will not take the toddlers, which is very sad for me, because that's my passion. And so I just would like you to look, think about that as you're going through these. It's not just, the few providers. There's a lot of us out there that work alone, and need to have their spaces in their homes evaluated to take in account of taking care of those little ones all the time, not just the few providers that'll be left, because there won't be space for those little ones with the rules. Thank you.
Whoa, there's a lot of you here. My name is Nikki Kinzer, and I have a center with a co-owner. And we've been in business for 7.5 years, and I've been in the industry for about 25. And I have no interest in talking for 30 minutes, but I'm going to keep it very short and sweet. I know you are all here for the same reason, to increase the quality of care for kids. And I appreciate you all for doing that for us and finding the best way to get there. I just do want everybody to remember that that does come at a cost. And one of the big pieces for centers is the professional development piece. And that is a very costly expectation to have for centers. We already have a very challenging workforce that we're working with, and to expect them to come in with a state certificate is a little bit above and beyond what we should be expected to do, I believe. I believe that the CDA, AAs, and BAs are as valuable as anything that could be put out there for us. And I think there should be some equivalency that's given to experience as well. We have some of the best teachers who have been in the business for a really long time, and they don't have any sort of formal education, but they are more valuable than any of you could ever know to our business. So we hope to have caring people in our field and encourage them to further their degrees, but right out of the gate, it's too much to ask for centers to employ state certified teachers. That's all. Thank you.
I'm Rebecca Lee, and I think I spoke to the group yesterday also. I was trying to stay to my 3 minutes, so I thought I would come again. I would like to tag team, if I may, on to some of the comments that other folks have made. First of all, to thank you all again. It's Saturday. So thank you all for being here. We had an opportunity this morning to spend some time with Heather Moss, and as a committee and as a team and in early learning, we want to thank you, Heather, for taking the time to show us that we matter. So thank you so much. I just want to say that in regard to the education piece, which I know is going back and forth and it's big, and I just want to tell you from my perspective, I'm okay. I have a master's in early childhood education. So I'm not worried about me personally. I'm worried about the fantastic teachers that I employ, the fantastic teachers that want to be in early learning that are never going to come into this industry. And it makes me really sad because there are wonderful, wonderful teachers out there that will love and nurture our kids and teach them and talk to them, but they may not have a degree. Some of my best teachers don't necessarily have a degree. You can't teach love and care and nurture the same way you can teach teachers how to talk to children and have a scaffold conversation or back and forth, or you just can't always teach that. And often when they do go to school and get that degree, we lose them to the school district. And that's the reality. And so it is my hope that you will take into consideration and understand that our reality is different. Would we love to have all of our teachers with degrees? Yes, we would. Would we love them to stay with us? Absolutely. But I want you to know that I was paying 2 teachers over $15 an hour. They were both in, remember I have ECAP in 2 of my facilities, so they were making in the $15 range, plus medical benefits and dental benefits, and they left to go work at a Vista for the same amount of money for a lot less work. This is a thankless field. I mean, someone said earlier, Debbie, maybe you know, when you look at how much work goes into it and how many hours a day and a week and a month we spend, I mean, I'm spending between 60 and 70 hours a week working. You know, we're making about $6 an hour, maybe. So we just would ask that you remember that it's hard enough to get good employees, but to get employees with those educational standards is just something that is an expectation that I feel like we can't meet. And I want to set up centers and licensed care and all of our early learning for success, not for failure. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Gloria Vasquez. I'm in home child care. I had a small experience with the child care, but I have 2 years and few months. But I know a lot of providers from my culture, the Latino culture, and I know some other cultures. They have the child care for many years, 20 years, 25, 30 years. They have a lot of experience. And I second what the lady said before, is about education. These people, they had experience because they grow their children, their grandchildren, some of them great children. And right now they have to close their centers because I don't want to put fingers, but some organizations require a lot of education to run this career, because like another lady mentioned, it's not a business because we don't make a lot of money, but we do this because we love the kids. And the more older we are, maybe somebody's not agree with me, but the more older we are, we have more patience and more experience to nurturing these children. I know it's a lot of young people coming in the field. Some of them, they don't have experience. Some of them don't have children. How they can approach or comfort one children when he's having a lot of pain or is suffering something or has to express emotions. And I really, really ask to the organizations to put in consideration, like too many people for a lot of experience, like it's more worth than a degree, they're closing. It's the only one income they have in their life. And for some of the requirements, they have to close down. I think that is not fair. And please, the people who has the right to make these little changes or big changes, whatever you want to see it, do something about it. Because it's for the children, it's not for ourselves. Thank you.
I'm not going to walk over there. My name is Ginger Still, and I am a child care provider in the Tri-Cities. I have currently 2 child care centers. I had 3. I just recently closed my Pasco location because it wasn't going to survive. So when I look at this, I'm looking at it from a sustainability standpoint. So I'm actually a little late to the party because at the end of last year, we all got hit with 1433. So my business partner and I were focused on that. And while I knew that this was going on, I wasn't paying super close attention. And then I started to have time to pay attention. And then I started reading a lot of the proposed WACs and changes. And Debbie knows because I emailed her. But my first thought was, oh my God, is this a joke? You know, and like I told Debbie, I'm like, there's a lot of things in there that I think are probably unattainable for a lot of people, including myself, but it really just kind of felt like it was a lot. Now I understand now that I'm talking more and got some more insight on that, but I think it's important that on top of everything else that we're having to do and run a business, that we have rules, we need to follow the rules. If somebody's not performing the way that they need to and children are in an unsafe environment, yes, those things, they need to be weighted heavily and action needs to be taken. But I think by and large, every one of us that is performing the job goes to work every day and tries to do the best they can and provide that safe environment. And so it does feel a little overreaching at times, and I would say when the decisions are being made, and not to reiterate everything that everybody else said, but I think the focus, a piece of the focus should be on sustainability, because I think it's going to be difficult for a lot of us to keep our doors open. So.
Hi, my name is Amber Jasmine. I am a CPA here in Spokane. I'm here representing the Eastern Washington Child Care Association, and I'm the treasurer for that. I guess I wanted to talk a little bit I know you guys are aware of everything that's going on. I mean, a lot of you are hit with the same things that we are. So I just wanted to remind you of all of the costs associated with these upcoming WACs, and that we have to put on top of the costs that we're going to have for 1433. And the realisticness of piggybacking those two among other things, and trying to figure out a way to, as Ginger said, make these businesses sustainable, because we need these centers, we need these home cares, we need, the ECAPs and the Head Starts to survive. These kids need a place to go, and that's the first important thing. And if we can't get funding to either fund for the WACs that are going to be taking place, or to either somehow find a way to mitigate the costs involved with them, then there's going to be a lot of centers shutting down. It's just statistics, it's going to be true. There's nothing that we can do about that. So I do implore you to think about that and have it weigh heavily when you're deciding, especially with like with the experience versus education versus, space and things that would have an immediately dollar cost, not only to centers, but to teachers and it trickles on to parents, because parents can only afford to pay so much as well. And so that's what I have to say.
All right, I want to thank you all again for coming. I know it's not easy to talk in front of a group of 50 people, especially on a Saturday, so I think I speak for everyone that your comments really show the passion and commitment that you have to the work that you do, so thank you again for coming. So I'm going to give everyone a round of applause again for coming. All right, so I'm going to hand it off to Heather Moss, who's the Director of Department of Early Learning.
Yes? Yeah, there it is. Okay, cool. I have to just say it over again after you've heard it so many times. I am amazed and humbled by this process. This is a process that Dell did not come up with in isolation. This has been a shared learning experience, and I just, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank everybody for being here, not only this weekend, but all of the weekends past and the next few weekends that you have scheduled to come. I'm heartened to see all of the accomplishment that's made so far. You're getting close to the top of the finish line, or ready to finish all of this up. So again, thank you, and I hope that you're recognizing that this process has been very valuable to the department, but also valuable to all of you in learning more about the regulations that we have, why we have them, and what they mean to different parties in the community. A lot of the public comment we heard tonight was about understanding and respecting businesses, and I really want you to know that we do see that. Our business, first and foremost, is to ensure the safety of children in care in Washington State. That being said, we cannot do that without child care providers providing the care. And we are very aware of that, and it's a delicate balance that we all have to work together to achieve. How do we make sure that we maximize safety to protect our children and make this a system that is viable for those businesses across the state, whether that's family homes or centers or ECAP providers in whatever setting that might be. The way we do that, from my perspective, is that we maximize health and safety standards to ensure that there's safe environments. Where we see economic impact, whether that's in the ratios or in the professional development requirements or in environmental requirements, then we have an obligation to work with you and help figure out how we work together to fund those. It might be through scholarships, it might be through providing technical assistance, it might be through continuing to address and fix our rates, whether those are ECAP rates or subsidy rates. So those are the ways that we are trying to strike that balance between safety and viability of businesses. So I don't want to monopolize too much of your time. You've had such a long day, and I want to say thank you again for all of the work that you've done, and I wanted to share a little bit about the thinking that I and the rest of the leadership team at Dell have been using to approach this work. We can't do it without you. We really appreciate your continued partnership in this, and I want you to know that when these rules come back to the department for final consideration and adoption, that we will honor this process, that it will be very hard for us to make any changes to this knowing that this process has happened and that you are bringing us these rules as written and as deliberated so thoughtfully and so carefully by all of you. So I hope that you believe that that's what we're going to do, and I commit to making that happen in the months to come. So thanks again, and for those of you who are staying tonight, I hope you get a little bit of respite and can spend some quality time, whether that's with each other or all by yourselves, which is what I would do, because this is really hard work and deep thinking work. So thank you all for being here. Did you need to do something else to formally close this?
Just some housekeeping.
Okay, I am going to run out of the room, and I wouldn't normally do that except I have a flight at 6 p.m., and I'm cutting it close, but I wanted to say goodbye to all of you and thank you all. So I am super accessible. If you ever want to reach me, you can find my email on the Dell website or find my phone number, I think. Okay? Thank you all.
Thank you, Heather. Okay, just some small housekeeping items. Reminders of public comment that the public comment portal is still open. We send all of the public comments to the groups, so that channel is still open. For those of you in the room, tomorrow morning we're going to revisit what date we'll meet in February. So please meet with your groups between now and tomorrow morning. We'll discuss that when we come back. Otherwise, have a great night. Thanks for the hard work. Great job.